Spokesperson for the Israeli Prime Minister's office, Tal Heinrich, joins me. Good evening, and tell me this, and I wish I had Hamas here to answer this question, because I ask it in all candor. I know what Israel is trying to do to get humanitarian aid in there, but I also know that Hania, who is anywhere from worth $5 billion to $10 billion, who's in Qatar and was head of Hamas. What is Hamas doing to get aid? And maybe they're doing something, and we're just not hearing the reports of it. What is Hamas doing to help get aid to those Palestinians?
That is a great question. Nobody in Hamas is going hungry, Greta. Please be sure of that, because we arrested thousands of these terrorists, Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. None of them seemed to be hungry. Hamas, they've been hoarding and stealing the aid that has been funneling in. And keep in mind that more food trucks have entered Gaza since October 7th on a daily basis than before the war has even begun, before the October 7th massacre. Hamas have been stealing this aid, and sometimes they sell it for tenfold the price at the market. And you know what? They're not doing it just to feed their own war machine. They do it because that is part of their strategy. They want to maximize the civilian suffering in Gaza in hopes that Israel will take the fire for it, and that international pressure on Israel will bring an eventual end to this war and let them stay in power, let them live another day, and carry out another October 7th massacre.
Well, you know, it is curious how Hania and other Hamas leaders got so very rich in rather short time, and I don't know. You know, they didn't invent the iPhone. They didn't do a lot of great inventions. They were skimming off money that was flowing in and out of Gaza, and they got very rich. And now you've got the irony of it is that this horrible situation where the aid workers were killed, and nobody wanted them to die. But the world is scandalized that it happened. Of course, Israel took some action, but nonetheless they died. And you're losing the PR war. And the irony of it is that the more Israel loses the PR war and the more Hamas doesn't try to help these people with all their money, the more it inures to the benefit of Hamas.
So people out there have to understand, and I'm glad you're bringing it up, because you're either Team Israel or you're Team Hamas in this war. There's no middle here. If somebody truly cares about Palestinian civilians, they should wish for Hamas to be gone, because Hamas they've been in power for 16 years in Gaza. All they brought upon Palestinian civilians is a lot of misery. They knew exactly what was going to happen when they launched the October 7th attack. And they're trying to do their best to maximize civilian casualties and maximize civilian suffering in Gaza. And again, they hope that Israel will be accused for their actions. So when pressure is applied on Israel instead of on Hamas in this war, they're playing right into Hamas's strategy, right into their hands, and they're incentivizing their use of humans as human shields, or use of civilians as human shields, and stealing of the aid. Because if you put the pressure on Israel when Hamas are doing these things, then you incentivize these sick methods.
Tal Heinrich, thank you very much for joining me. And I wish that I could get into Gaza. I realize it's painfully dangerous for anybody, and just to get in, so we can get an idea of what this aid situation is. Not from some journalists, but nobody's getting in there right now. Tal Heinrich, thank you very much for joining me.
Pleasure, Greta.